In this video, we're going to build a completely new turbine and also repair the turbine axle. And we're going to get one step closer to making the Nano Hydro power station. Hello everyone, I'm Oscar and this is the second episode of this series. Since I plan building a turbine out of wood, we're probably going to encounter problems with water damage, since wood isn't waterproof. So my solution to that is hopefully going to be epoxy. I'm going to try to put a small epoxy layer on the whole turbine, and hopefully that way it's going to be waterproof and also last much longer. But before we start building anything, we have to disassemble the power station. So there is this one problem with disassembling the power station. I don't remember how it was secured to the ground, but what I do hope is that it isn't secure at all. All we would have to do is just rip it out of the ground. But we do have this another problem, that's getting the power station back to the workshop. But then again, I hope that the power station is light enough that I could just carry the whole thing back to the workshop. But that might be a little bit too optimistic. This is the last time we're going to see the power station in as it looks right now. If I'm correct, all I would have to do is just... Maybe not. I think it's secured by a bunch of stones, so I'm gonna remove the stones and try again. Oh, it's frozen too. It's frozen in the ground. Well, I've got to get some tools. So I got myself some boots and a shovel. I've been digging in the frozen ground for about an hour and I managed to do this. Yeah! Now I just have to get it up off the ground. Okay. So the question is, can I carry the whole thing? I don't really think so. I'm just gonna rip off the whole lid. Ay, ay, ay. There we go. Oh. Yeah! Kind of, but I can't see where I'm going. I can't do this. Well, there's a long way back to the workshop. You know what? I'm going to use them as wheels right now. Hopefully the turbine won't break from this. Okay. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, that works. Nope. Yeah! There we go. Oh, finally. The power station is finally upright, and yeah, I'm going to let it dry off until we start working on taking off the turbine and rebuilding it. Oh. I tried getting the power station lid or casing as well, but it fell apart. So that's just going to get thrown away and we'll just build a completely new one. And again, that was already the plan, so it doesn't matter. We're going to use the old turbine as a template for the new one, as long as we can get it off, because the nuts on this thing is incredibly rusted. I managed to take off the bicycle wheels, so now we can secure the whole axle to the vise and hopefully get off the nuts. Finally, getting this turbine off was so much harder than I thought, but now we're gonna finally start taking measurements of the old turbine and make a new one. This is perfect. When you put the turbines side by side, you can just see the difference. This is perfect. Well, next step is gonna try the epoxy, and hopefully I'm gonna try with some test pieces first to not ruin the turbine. Hopefully it's gonna be great. Well, this is the result from the epoxy, and I would say that this is gonna make the whole turbine waterproof. No doubt about it. But there is a small thing I don't like. There's a lot of small air bubbles in the whole layer, and I think you could either get those bubbles out using a vacuum, but I don't have anything like that for a whole turbine, or you could just use heat. So when I'm gonna put epoxy on the turbine, I'm gonna try using a light torch like this one, and hopefully get all of the air bubbles out. I have to put epoxy on the turbine twice because there is a lot of angles, you could say. So on the test piece I tried, which I didn't film when I did, I made an angle to see how well the epoxy would stick on a vertical surface. This vertical surface is much worse than the horizontal one. So when it comes to the turbine, I'm going to put epoxy on the turbine twice. Once where I put epoxy on the flat surfaces and also the vertical ones. And then I'm gonna turn it around and take the back side, and then take all of the vertical sides again. And hopefully by having 2 layers on the vertical sides, it would be enough to make it waterproof. Well, I'm gonna mix them up and let's see what we can do. Well, I would say the turbine is pretty much done, but there is the epoxy, it doesn't spread evenly. I don't know why that happens. There are a lot of spots on the turbine where, yeah, what I'm trying to say is the epoxy doesn't evenly spread, so I should probably make more layers of epoxy to make it good. But for now, I would say that the turbine is partially waterproof, but I can't do a second layer of epoxy now because I don't have any more left. But the question is, can I get it off? Oh. Well, well, I guess that's fine. It left a few wooden pieces. Then we have the axle, and what we're going to do with that, you may ask. I'm going to first take off this old ball bearings, and then I'm going to sandblast the whole thing to get all the rust off. And then I'm going to paint it once with the primer, and then with the paint. Pretty simple. Yeah. Then we have the other one. Even the saw didn't cut through this ball bearing. I don't know what type of steel this is, but it certainly is really hard. So my only and last solution is to sandblast the whole thing, and hopefully the diameter of the whole axle will shrink a little bit, and hopefully it will be easier to get off the ball bearing after we sandblast the whole thing. When I think about it, we don't need the axle to shrink, we need the ball bearing to get wider. And I totally forgot, when you heat up steel, it widens. The problem is that we only heat the outer ring of the ball bearing and not the inner ball bearing ring. That's the one that have to be wider. Nope, sandblasting. A lot has happened since last time I made a clip where I sandblasted the whole axle. I got some help from a buddy of mine to take off the ball bearing. We used an hydraulic press which was much easier than hammering down with the hammer. But then again, I needed new ball bearings since I broke the old ones with a hammer. So when I sat down on the internet and looked for new ball bearings, I struggled a lot because the axle had different dimensions. Like here it was around 33 millimeters, here it was 32, and here it was 31. So I needed ball bearings with different dimensions. The solution was to get the whole axle at the same dimensions, so I could just get 2 ball bearings with the same dimensions and it would be just so much easier. So instead of getting ball bearings, I actually got ball bearing blocks instead. We can secure the axle much better than it was before. And also I would like to say that I am so grateful for our local high school, because they have both the equipment and the knowledge to use one of those machinery to do this. I don't know the name for it, but anyways, they helped me and it looks so much better. And now we can attach 2 ball bearings with the same dimensions. The whole axle is now around 30 millimeters, slightly less than 30 millimeters. So it's not going to be that much harder to get on the ball bearings because they are exactly 30 millimeters. But I do have to say, I'm not going to be able to finish the whole axle in this episode, unfortunately, because this video is coming out on Friday. Well, here you have it, a completely new turbine and also a almost finished refurbished turbine axle. Before the next video, I'm going to put a new layer of epoxy on the turbine to get it more even and hopefully not make it look so bad. But I do have to say, I like the turbine much more when it wasn't this shiny, like when it was just with a good look. This is the only way I can make it waterproof. And for the turbine axle, before the next video, I'm gonna wash it, prime it and paint it, and also put on the ball bearing blocks so it's ready to put on the main power station. Other than that, in next video, we're gonna start building the actual power station, or at least assemble it. We're gonna install the turbine and the axle and also the generator. And also, if I get enough time, I'm going to try to make the mechanism that opens and closes the power station lid, which I talked about in the last video, where I pushed a button and the generator lid would open and close automatically. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. I look like a barbarian with this stuff.